What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about thinking from and how you can use this idea to start to bring more and more peace, joy, happiness, gratitude into the here and now, and let go of a lot of the fearful, hysterical, doubt-based assumptions that can unconsciously be just running in the background. And so when I talk about thinking from, it has to do with how you're relating to reality as you're navigating the day-to-day. It's like so many times me and you could be having the exact same experience physically, but the mental narrative that's going along with it could be night and day different. And so when you start thinking from, you're already thinking from a premise. And the problem is a lot of us are thinking from a premise that we're separate from God and separate from each other and separate from creation and separate from our desires. And as a result, naturally, we start to unconsciously manifest more and more separation, which creates more and more fear unintendedly. That's not what we're trying to do. A lot of it is like, well, trying to create some sort of a heaven, a utopia, some happy situation. But until we realize that we're all connected and the source for that change is in our relationship with God, that is within our own consciousness and how we are kind of relating to God in our prayer life, what we believe to be true, all of these things become externalized like a big mirror to show us what we're being. And if you're not being in relationship with God in the here and now, you're seeing separateness. And so thinking from a premise of separateness is the problem and is rectified by letting go of those erroneous beliefs in the here and now. And so as you start to navigate what you're dealing with in the here and now, whatever that happens to be, whether it's your job, your relationships, your finances, your health, all of these key kind of like levels of things that we can take care of as being like a human, all of these can start to be shifted based on whether you're thinking from fulfillment or from scarcity, from lack, from, well, I don't know if that's God's will for me to have something like that. Even though if you read the Bible, it's a very clear promise of God that anything that you ask for in prayer, believe that you've received it and it's yours. And believing is a active right now type of thing. And so putting on a thinking from position of being blessed, that all of these things are part of your inheritance in Christ, everything that you're desiring is not even your separate desire, but it's connected with an aspect of your spiritual relationship with God that's looking to be manifested spiritually first through an understanding, but then also physically through kind of a reward of just almost like a reflection. It's like as you put it on in consciousness, as you level up your faith, it becomes demonstrated in the events that are happening in your life. And in the past video I just put out, this is always a delayed reflection. And so as you are navigating the here and now, so you don't become triggered by a lot of like the thinking of desires where it's like you're separate from them, or you're feeling scarcity, you're feeling things that are untrue about your identity. Because another key aspect of thinking from it is like, would you be thinking this way if you were in heaven, for example? Would you be thinking this way if you were blessed right now, which you are? Would you be thinking this way if you knew the power that's within you, that's God's given you to use to create more and more heaven on earth? You wouldn't be thinking about, fear, lack, hysteria, all these satanic tricks. That's not what's going to be on your mindset. And you can start to see that in your own life, in these different areas where you've actually been successful at maybe manifesting something. Maybe your parents gave you a good foundation, like a beliefs. My grandma gave me a lot of really solid beliefs. I didn't realize until, a couple years ago, how much like her kind of loving programming has kept me safe from some things, has just been just running in the background, just really being a benefit to me. One of which, would be like, it's like I had these hip issues. I just got my hip replaced on the left side 3 weeks ago. And, she had like said something to me when I was like maybe a teenager. She's like, everybody's got a health thing that they gotta deal with, and this is just yours. It's like, some people have like heart issues, some people have cancer issues, some people have mental issues, all sorts of things that can manifest. And I just believe that, and as a result, I don't get sick, hardly ever. When I had COVID, it was just like, I would have confused it with just seasonal allergies. It's just the biggest thing with that, for me was like this weird hysteria, this spell. I actually kind of felt it, which I was surprised I did, but it was more of like, kind of like that hysterical reaction if you've like ate too much edibles, where it's like, oh, you're not going to overdose from it because it's just like, through just doing like marijuana edibles, you just like, no, it's like, this is all psychological. And it's like I fell for the same trick again. I didn't wait long enough and I ate the other half of it. Now it's like hitting full throttle, and I just am now getting peaking from the first one, and now it's like I already ate the second one, and now it's like I'm freaking out that I'm going to die or whatever. Is that same kind of hysteria where it's just like, that you're probably going to be okay, like 99.9% chance, but then it's like, well, you could be that 1%. You could be like, that nagging, fearful, kind of doubting Thomas, internal bullshit going on. But, so much of like just moving forward is, well, when confronted with that thought, wherever it comes from, you could look at it as being a victim, like it was been implanted by like some satanic thing is trying to trick you, or you could look at things as more of like everything's happening perfectly. This thought, maybe I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to be reactive to it, because that's part of the problem, that was just in my consciousness anyway, this little story that I kind of vaguely believe. And I can start to change my beliefs and assumptions. And as I do that and align more in line with the truth, the more that will be externalized and demonstrated in my tomorrow. When is it actually going to be? It's going to be now. But if you're constantly just focused on, I need it to be different now, I need it to be different now, you're in a state of waiting, you're in a state of unfulfillment, you're in resistance, a lot of resistance then too. And so even when it comes to things that are like maybe undesirable, start thinking from it's already been resolved. I'm blessed. I don't know what this is. This is more than likely just my past that's now confronting me in the present. Instead of reacting out of fear and putting my energy on that and growing what's undesirable, I'm going to transmute this. I'm not going to be reactive. I'm going to think from the premise that I'm already in the kingdom of God. I'm in the kingdom of heaven right now. And that God will manifest the solution to this in God's timing. I don't need to sit here in resistance and worry and doubt and fear about it. It's already inherently going to work out. I'm already healed from this problem. Those kinds of things really help get rid of a lot of these doubts that are constantly just buried in the surface of your consciousness, where you can start to actually do something about them when some event happens outside of you that brings up that belief that's running internally unconsciously that you weren't aware it was there until this situation happens. Well, once you let go of that belief that's been error, believing, maybe some thought of fear, some limiting belief, some limiting assumption, maybe some premise that you are thinking of what you want, which is actually just heaven. That's what you want. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants love and God on some level. We just don't know how to manifest that, but we try through different means. But when you start to look at what's going on, anytime that you shift from thinking of something to thinking from it, that's something now you can tangibly put on in the here and now, instead of pushing it away and sitting in a bunch of resistance in the present moment. And as you're doing that more and more so, you make the change inwardly first in the here and now. The present moment is always when you're doing this, consciously or unconsciously. Well, in God's timing, and really it gets faster and faster the less you care about it, the less you put it on a pedestal, the more it's like you can't really pinpoint when it left. You're just like all of a sudden find yourself in this new state, and it's like, oh, that pain is gone. Oh, that problem has been resolved so naturally and normally that it doesn't even really stand out until after you kind of connect the dots looking backwards. And so as you're doing this more and more so, as you're actively and you're already doing this, so it's like, are you doing, are you thinking of something? Oh, if only I got this music on the music charts, then I could be happy. Are you putting something on a pedestal, that something outside of you, that you can be happy and feel like successful? Well, if this milestone happens, then I can feel a certain way. Or are you thinking from, how would you feel if that was, the case, that you do get these things all the time? Would you be caring? Are you trying to, what are you trying to do with it? What's your intention? Do you even know? Part of like the present moment is really kind of unpacking what you're even trying to accomplish. What is the point of this? Are you doing it for what reason? That's all part of like you and defining who you are, which God gives us enormous amounts of freedom, and in this inner conversation of like being whatever you want to be. How that manifests, is in God's ways, and the more that you're able to just put on like kind of that gratitude of like, this is how it is. I don't have to worry about making something happen, because personally I can't make anything happen. Who God created me to be is one that's like reaping and sowing together. It's like your trust in the fact that God's doing it, and part of like the doubt comes in from, well, thinking of something versus thinking from it. If you were in abundance and prosperity, for example, would you be clipping coupons and like fretting over a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there? No, of course not. It's like, if you're in perfect health, would you be fixated on your body? It's like, of course not. It's like coming to those realizations where what you're wanting is maybe some sort of relief. But even with the relief, so much of it comes from removing your attention from the undesirable things and the shit that you're just like unconsciously doing. Because who you naturally are doesn't need to do anything really. It's like, it's just who you are then becomes externalized and shown back to you, which you are one with love, one with your creator. And that will start to be reflected more and more so as you just trust and believe that. Everything is a reflection of your past beliefs and assumptions. So start changing your state of mind right now. And anything that tells you differently, that's like, oh, I can't put on being blessed right now, for example. I can't put on peace. I can't put on joy or happiness or anything but vengeance or whatever. Well, don't guilt and shame yourself. God's going to meet you where you're at, for one. But for two, whatever's bubbling to your surface of your mind, when confronted with, well, thinking from being blessed, would I even consider this a problem? Would I consider this an obstacle? Would that be something I need to battle and rage against? Do I need to attack it if I'm already blessed and already won, and everything's already inherently part of my inheritance as like a child of God? Well, it's like, of course you wouldn't be worried about that. You wouldn't even been thinking that way. And so part of like thinking from a state of being blessed is realizing that you don't have to sit there and worry about it. You don't have to think like that anymore. And that's a very powerful idea, for one, but it's even more powerful when you put it into practice in the here and now. It's like, I don't need to worry about this. I don't need to think that way anymore. I don't have to think about what I need to react to and plot and scheme to make something happen with my separate ego willpower, realizing that my will and God's will is connected, and the things that I desire is what God desires for me. As soon as I can handle it in my consciousness, it will be reflected in due time, but it'll be reflected accordingly. The less I believe that, oh, this is going to be difficult and hard. Oh, I'm going to go through, this is my 3-year plan. It's going to take me 3 full years to do this. Well, that's a self-fulfilling belief. If you believe that God can manifest things instantaneously, that here's an even better belief besides the linear time of like, oh, quote unquote, that needs to play out in the future. I need to be walked through this event. Realize that the past also changes. So you can be walking into this new present knowing that, the past is just as fluid as the future. Oh, Mike, that's triggering. I can't even put my mind there. It's like, well, some of us can, and some of us have experienced it. So it's like, having this idea that everything's just locked in. It's like everything is happening now. all these little like multiverses or simultaneous realities or whatever, it's all existing now in the eternal now. Creation's finished. And so the only thing that we can start to really do in the here and now is just become increasingly aware of what already is. And in that, you start thinking from, okay, well, right now I am in the kingdom of God. Not tomorrow, not 1 second from now. Here and now, this is what it is. Oh no, Mike, look at all the satanic shit. Oh, Mike, look at all this death. Oh, Mike, look at all this sickness and illness. It's like, okay, you're looking at the past. Your past, actually, and where you've put your attention, where you believe to be real about the quote-unquote world, which is an illusion. But, it's all reflective of where you used to be. And if you want to continue to spend your eternity staring at what some satanic evil thing is doing, you're unconsciously creating more of that. Which then, then you start to see that even more. And you start to get more and more into the satanic Truman Show as you're putting your attention, which is, I believe, is a form of worship, on the undesirable. And, you're starting to think from like, oh, I'm in a state of hell. I need to get out of here. I can't wait for this shit to be over. I can't wait to escape the Matrix. And do I go to the light? Do I, is that an Archon death trick? It's like... Part of the problem, is focusing so much attention on the undesirable and on Satan and all this fucking shit, when you should be putting your attention on God and not creating these idols, not creating these people on pedestals even. And that includes me. It's like you should start to, if anything, be strengthened to go within your own self for the answers, because that's where the teacher is. It's like, well, Mike, you just said something that's very triggering and I don't resonate with you anymore. It's like, good. That's part of what's going on, is like, you don't need people outside of you to like be your guru. It's like it's all within you. And so the more that you're able to like, okay, well, he's just another part of creation, another unique part of creation. Like, you're unique, everybody's unique, everybody's take is unique, but you can fall into two categories, and that's going to be thinking from, thinking of, cursed and blessed, sleep, awake, this binary situation, which is ultimately, even in that relativeness, you can look at it from a high enough perspective and you can see how it all kind of works together. But that's something you can start to put on more and more so as you just start doing it. Be a doer of it and not just a hearer only, which is important, because it's like, even like an instrument. I mean, it's like people can get so fucking fixated on like pedals and like learning theories and like, oh, look at that guy, look at that person's playing that style, and like never really play, never actually practice and noodle around on their own guitar. It used to be such an annoyance for me. It was like playing with different people and like doing different bands, and like you have this guitar player that just will sit there and fiddle fuck around with like a tone that they're trying to recreate on this pedal board, and they're like 15, 20 minutes, hold on, and they're just like fiddle fuck. It's like, dude, just play it. It's like, it don't have to, what are you doing? It always just irritated me, and it was always one of those like big red flags of like, okay, this is not going to work, for a long-term situation, because like, you're going to do this every time. I can't handle this shit. And so with that being said, I think I am going to bounce, just like, hopefully that gives you something to put into practice more and more so now. And as you do, hopefully your day is like filled with better and better, like manifestations. Things are going better and better, joy to joy, or what is it, glory to glory is another, as the way the Bible describes it. It's getting better and better and better, every day, telling yourself, empowering, thoughts and ideas and beliefs about your identity is really kind of awesome. It's like, the alternative is like you're basically just deteriorating and killing yourself on a slow decline of just this mental prison that's just getting smaller and smaller as your fears become more manifested, and the world just becomes more and more hellacious, maybe one way to say, it's just more and more fucking just clown world stuff, and it's just like that. But even in that uncomfortable insanity has a purpose of waking people up, which you can see that happening over and over again. Every time a group doubles down, another group kind of is like, what are they doing? But it's all part of this this flow. And so, with that being said, I think I'm gonna bounce. So I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate your spiritual support and your physical support. Link in the description. I appreciate it. I put that support to good use. And until the next now, God bless.